このバチあたりに真に執行だ。
片付けます。一瞬で。
裁かれたい愚か者はどなたですか。生まれてきたことを後悔させましょう。この程度ですか。おやおや。マグヌスアポカリプス。ゆった
シャドウ入れ。
ゆった
シャドウ入れ。
そろそろ切り札を出すか。
これが切り札だ。
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Nevin is a 5-star Shadow Dagger unit, who is classified as a support unit. He is one of the 2 apostles that debut in the new facility event, with both of them possessing unique debuff and buff modes. As a shadow supporter he has to compete with top tier support units such as Delphi, Nefaria, and of course, Dragalia herself. Let's look at what he has to offer, and find out if he has a place in a modern shadow team. For this video and Pinon's video, I'll go through the abilities first, as their special ability is the core of their kit. Raimiel's Covenant is Nevin's special ability that debuffs him for the first 5 minutes, which the duration can be shortened by shape-shifting and using his skill 2. The former reduces duration by 240 seconds, and the latter by 60 seconds. He also has a unique force strike that heals him with 5% potency every half second, and can be held down for continuous healing, even when his HP is full. When the sigil is released, both of his skills are powered up, and also grants him a unique attack after his standard attack combo, which is C1 to C5. The unique attack is the summoning of 4 swords lasting for 12 seconds that deal 100% damage each and grant Nevin 30 SP every 1.5 seconds. The powering up of his skills is important for him as a supporter, meaning that he has to release his sigil as quickly as possible, and the ability to greatly reduce the duration of his debuff by shape-shifting is good, but only usable if he has the appropriate dragon. Otherwise he can only shine during mid-late battle, which can be a problem to some. His healing by force strike grants him additional self-sustainment, which is welcomed. The swords don't deal good damage, and could just be seen as slightly powered up normal attacks. His resist is blindness resist, which like Xena, can make dealing with Kayan's spinning balls easier. 20% crit damage buff works well with his crit rate co-ability, which is welcomed. His co-abilities consist of a typical crit rate buff and another useless defense buffing chain co-ability. Victoria strategy costs 3000 SP. It creates a buff zone similar to Dragalia's that grants a 25% strength buff to shadow units inside it. During sigil release, this skill also grants 20% light damage reduction. For a dagger unit, and having the ability to equip an Agito dagger that can boost attack rate means that this skill can prop up very quickly, which makes this skill seem good at first glance. However, the limitation of buff to shadow units is not as useful as a straight up universal strength buff. Same goes to the light damage reduction defense buff. Additionally, Patia's Mana Spiral exists, who has a similar skill, but performs way better. I would say that this skill isn't all that useful, especially when compared to existing supporters. Magnus Apocalypse costs 7500 SP. It has a base damage of 1000% and is able to reduce the debuff duration by 60 seconds if it connects. When his debuff has worn off, the skill grants additional damage based on the number of enemy containing buff zones on the battlefield. Additional 300% is dealt for each self-made zone, while additional 100% for each allied generated buff zone. I would say that this skill is utterly bad, like seriously. Unless you happen to have both of your shared skills as buff zone generating variants, and a team that can produce a lot of buff zones, such as a full Dragalia setup, the damage of this skill is quite low. Granted, if you're in high Jupiter trials and Nevin is in a team full of Dragalias, he can time his skills with the amount of buff zones on the field to do damage, but that would amount to 1600% damage excluding shared skills. With that in mind, I would say that this skill isn't good at what it is trying to accomplish. For a support unit, skill haste and buff time is a must, as with most support units in game. Skill damage is optional as his skill 2 deals relatively low damage. Poison Punisher is a decent option as he has a decent DPS with his crit rate and damage setup accompanied by increased hits by his special attack. For his dragon he must take Ramiel, not only for being canon in the story, but also Ramiel's ability and skill, the former allowing immediate shape-shifting that chips away 240 seconds of his debuff, and the latter red is his skill 2 for use, which cuts off what's left of the debuff duration. Not to mention the automatic charging for both of his skills for 90 seconds works well with nearly any support unit. If you don't have Ramiel, Azazel is a decent option with skill haste suited for any support and healing unit. Merishatan is okay for her strength buff. Chtonius is applicable if you have a lot of dragon haste, if not I wouldn't recommend him. For his weapon, if you do not choose to use the Agito dagger I would beat the crap out of you. Come on, you can get the dagger by grinding Expert Kayan for fragments, with Expert Kayan being an absolute joke and significantly easier than Expert High Zodiac. For his Wimprints there isn't any variety from a typical supporter other than his Poison Punisher. Nevin is a character that shows potential, but fails to meet expectations. His new mechanic may be unique, but is near impractical in many battles. His skill 1 as a primary supporting skill is outclassed by Patia's skill 1, who is of a lower rarity and therefore a lot easier to obtain. One might argue that Nevin takes less resources to build than Patia, and other shadow supporters don't offer defense buffs. But other shadow supporters are able to play their roles very well, with Delphi outputting potent debuffs, Nefaria's poison, blindness and dispel, and Galaclia's ability to buff strength debuff attack and defense, and also heal the whole team. Patia, who is classified as a defense unit, has a more support focused kit that made her one of the so-called 4 Kings of Shadow, which consist of Gala Alex, Galaclia, Grace, and Patia herself. Nevin just doesn't have a place in the current state of the game, and therefore I would suggest against building him unless you don't have Patia. Now go out there and contemplate the life decisions that you made if you built him before the release of this video, including myself. I built him, so you don't have to. That's all from me. Moga out.